Hello everyone, Dirsta here. I'm bringing you an interesting lobby race. Now obviously FIA isn't really happening much at the moment, so a lot of us have been having fun in lobbies, and have I got a treat for you. Now it wasn't a particularly busy lobby, but never fear, we had a lot of action. So here's the grid lineup. I have qualified on pole by just 8 thousandths of a second ahead of Mehdi in the BMW. Now there's only 5 of us, as you would have probably noticed, but that doesn't actually diminish the excitement of this race. Now, you just couldn't make this up, especially the end. So, let me give you a bit of a backdrop of the strategy. You've got 15 laps, all 3 tyre compounds to be used, soft through to hard, and you had to just manage to fuel. You're pretty much flat out, so not major fuel saving, but you'd be caught with your pants down if you burned all of it in one go. So, that really sets the stage. Me and Mehdi have decided to go on the softs, as you would, leading from the front, so it's full chat for us too. P3 and P4 have done the same. It's Sparks, curiously, who has decided to start on mediums and play the long game. As for tyres, you will find you can stretch the softs for about 7 or 8 laps. You want to do 1 lap on the hard, and then the rest medium. Now, when is a good time to stop? To be honest, you want to try and use as much tyre as possible before having to refuel. So, to be honest, with this race, you've just got to do all laps medium, then 1 hard, then refuel, all laps soft, 1 hard, then refuel. That's probably the best approach. You don't want to refuel any earlier than you need to. You want to try to keep the car as light as possible for as much of the race as you can. And that's one of the basic principles of doing the kinds of races where you need all 3 tyre compounds, 25 minutes plus race, and a lot of laps. Now we're heading up to the Chicane of Death. We all know the reputation it has, and pretty much straight away it claims its first victim. Mehdi, boom, straight into the wall. Now he has got a lot of work to do if he's going to catch up. Remember, me and Mehdi were actually incredibly evenly matched around this track, lap for lap, and even on race pace. So having dropped back 4 seconds just behind Sparks, he's really got his work cut out for him, but he's not giving up, which I was really pleased about. So that gives Sparks an interesting advantage, because if he's still ahead by the start of lap 2 and on medium tyres, that makes him an ominous threat for Mehdi towards the end of the race. Meanwhile, I am up ahead, and I just need to settle into a rhythm. I don't need to take stupid risks, I don't need to pleb it, which I have a really good reputation for. Now, a little battle shaping up between these 2 guys. I think Anthony is going to play it smart. He's just going to tuck in behind Prez, keep it tidy, try to keep the pace up, and maybe take any opportunities if they present themselves, but he's not necessarily going full aggressive at this stage. There's not really much need. You know, this is not a sprint race. This is a little bit of a more of a marathon when you've got 15 laps to think about. As you can see here, he short shifts relatively early because he's just going to hold back. However, with Mehdi, with the pace he's got, he's just going to get a move on, especially with Sparks on the medium tyres. Now this gives Sparks a little bit of a helping hand, because he's on the mediums. You can just get a little bit of a helping along by Mehdi, because Mehdi's not going to hold Sparks up at this stage. So that actually helps Sparks towards the end of the race, as we will soon see. Coming through the Chicane of Death, and it has immediately claimed its second victim, that is Prez. Unfortunately for him, that puts him pretty much out of the running, and it means that Anthony doesn't really have him to worry about anymore. Back out in front, and I set a very comfortably fast 1:36.5, which is a really good lap for this track. And I just need to knuckle down, keep the pace up, not make any mistakes, not overdrive the car, manage the fuel, settle into a rhythm, and ultimately leave Mehdi with the uphill battle. And he's coming onto the back of Anthony pretty quickly here. He needs to get past as soon as possible. That said, Anthony pretty much makes it easy for him and plebs it completely. So that's Anthony out of the race and into the Shadow Realm. And Sparks, you can see, is still just about hanging on. It looks like he's probably just lost the slip now, and he can just settle in. We're going to fast forward to lap 6. Now you can see Sparks' rear tyres are getting a bit knackered. Pretty common with the Ferrari. I really struggled with this car in the last manufacturer series, so hats off, because Sparks really makes it work. he's going to dive into the pits now and get onto the hard tyres. So that's his medium stint done. Hard tyres on, no refuel, straight back out, and a really strong single lap on the hard tyres. Now Medi really has to get a move on if he's going to stay ahead of Sparks, because soon he's going to be attacking with the soft tyres. So we're going to skip ahead to Medi now, and you can see the pressure's on because it just cuts the corner just a little bit too much, and boom, half-second penalty. Not the end of the world, you don't have to serve it, you're not first to serve it, but you're going to have to try and shake it off while keeping the pace high. So pretty difficult thing to do. Straight away he knocks off a tenth of a second there, braking a little bit too early. Loads of wheel spin on the exit, but he's got to get a move on, and he's got to really keep the pace high if he's going to catch up with myself and keep Sparks behind, because he's still got that 4-second deficit. So even after all these laps, we've more or less maintained the gap. We've maybe shaved off a tenth here, lost a tenth there, but we're pretty evenly matched. But he doesn't have the slip to be able to really pull me in attack. Here is where Medi dives into the pits. He's gonna stick the hard tyres on just like Sparks did one lap before, and do one really strong lap on the hard tyres. I decide to actually go one lap longer. I've got the breathing space, I can stretch them out a little bit, and I can just keep the pace high. Sparks meanwhile dives into his final stop, and this is where he's got to refuel. So that means that Medi is going to refuel on the next lap, and I'm going to refuel on the lap after that, and it's then that we start to see things get a little bit more interesting. So here I am, I've got to keep the pace high, the pressure's on. Medi is not going to be letting up at all. I do still have that 4-second buffer, but anything can happen. I actually did make a note of the fact that when Medi dived into the pits, he had slightly more fuel on board than I did. The fuel was actually a little bit better on the BMW than it is with the Lexus, and I think I was a bit too aggressive in the early stages of the race. But given the 4-second buffer, I surely have not got anything to worry about. I mean, you know, what is the worst that could happen at this stage? Yeah, I could pleb it. I forgot about that. I could actually pleb it, which is it's exactly what just happened there. I completely plebbed it, and as we saw Medi on the map coming through the same part, I had a 12-second lead at this stage, and it quickly turned from 11 to 10 to 9 to 8.9 seconds. So that 4-second gap, that 4-second buffer I had, has literally vanished in a heartbeat. So I'm going to dive into the pits, I'm going to stick the hard tyres on, I'm going to do one lap on hard. This doesn't close the gap for me and Medi, because Medi dives into the pits as well, but this is where he refuels and sticks on fast and medium tyres. So this is really equalise things a bit, because Medi hit the wall once and I've hit the wall once. We both lost 4 seconds there, and that pretty much brings us back in line. Sparks meanwhile is just coming down the back straight. He's got brand new softs on, and he can just see Medi in the distance, but he's going to have the edge on 1 lap pace, and he's going to very quickly close that gap. So Medi knows this, and he needs to make every single lap count straight away. Meanwhile, he still has to get rid of that slap on the wrist penalty. So we're going to skip ahead. I am going to go full send around the final corner, dive into the pits as fast as I can, and literally get that pit stop happening as fast as you can. And when you've got a refuel and you know you're in the lead, it is agonising. The refuel, it just feels like 50 million years have passed by. You're just anxiously waiting to see where you come out once you leave the pits. So here we go, let's have a look. We've got Medi steaming up, but he's really got the momentum at this stage, and it's looking very threatening into turn 1. And he actually gets it just in time, just manages to stick his nose ahead. I decide not to go defensive and battle too hard. Why? Well, remember Sparks started on the mediums. He is not far behind on the soft tyres, as you can see. So the last thing I want to do is start battling with Medi unnecessarily. I want to really leave it until the last lap, so that we can hopefully keep Sparks at bay and force him to wear out his rear tyres and lose that edge towards the final lap. We don't want to let him catch up any sooner than that. And that, folks, is one of the keys to smart racing. And as you can see here, I actually decided I want to save fuel behind Medi, short shift a little bit, so that when I want to really attack and really gun it, I can absolutely redline it and unleash the full force of the Lexus. But it does have the edge on straight line speed over the BMW and a little bit on the Ferrari as well. So while I'm threading it through the chicane of death, I am thinking to myself, I want to give myself every advantage possible on the closing stages, because I want maximum fuel, I want maximum attack, I want to be able to get past that BMW when it counts. So for now, we're just going to sit tight, hang close, and just make it clear to Medi that we are not posing ourselves for an attack. Now this is the thing, if you want to work together to basically keep yourself away from the bigger threat, and that is Sparks on the soft tyre, you need to make it obvious you're not going to make a move. You need to lift off early. You need to not throw the car out up the inside and make it look as if you're thinking of going for a dive, because when you do these things, you make the person in front of you unsettled and nervous that you're going to send it, and sometimes they end up going defensive. That compromises their entrance into the corner, that slows them down, which slows you down, and it's just a little bit of a vicious circle. So you want to avoid that. You want to make it crystal clear that you are not going to be making any rash moves. And in top split lobbies, when you race the same guys regularly, you all get to know each other in terms of, you know, who's a massive pleb, which is me, who tends to send one up the inside every time there's a gap, and who tends to play it smart. You build a reputation, you build that sort of understanding amongst the guys that you drive with. So you can see, even coming into that corner, I'm lifting off really nice and early, and I'm not making any threatening moves with the car that's going to make Medi constantly look in his rearview mirror. I just want him to maximise his pace, look forward, get everything right so we can stay away from Sparks. But then the tables turned, because that clip of the wall, it hasn't put me out of contention, but it has enabled Sparks to pick up my slipstream, which is classic me. I have this absolute stupid habit that when somebody's just outside my slipstream, I notice it, and then I manage to pretty much give it away. And it's something I've got to really work on, because it is intensely annoying. But no bother, lobby race, exciting showdown, 4 laps to go, and it's gonna get interesting. So now we're beginning to bunch up a little bit. Medi still has that penalty. Sparks is licking his lips, but he's still got to manage his rear tyres. Meanwhile, I'm just waiting for the moment to attack. I'm not going to attack now. I'm going to start attacking the end of lap 14 throughout lap 15 to try and get ahead. You know, that's when I'm going to start really making my move. So for now, I just want to stay within striking distance. That said, coming through this section here, Medi picks up another slap on the wrist at probably the worst possible time. So now he's got 7 tenths to shake off before the end of the race, even though he's got to keep up the pace. And Sparks has actually got really good momentum up through those S's. The MR cars are really strong through there, so it's no surprise he managed to get close. I went to try and do the old switcheroo, but this is a case of when I knew to back off. It's just a waste of time trying to go too wide through that section on the outside. Just take it from me, don't bother. So that meant me and Sparks get through, keep the speed up, not lose the slipstream to Medi, and hopefully find a better opportunity later on. Seriously, I've gone through that sector and people really do try to hold it through there, and it's just such a waste of time. Just don't bother. It's better to just slip back, thread through, and then make a move on the next lap. So 3 laps to go now. Now I've got the disadvantage because I'm at the back, so if I want to get to the front by the final lap, I really need to start making my move on lap 13 as opposed to the end of lap 40, because I've got 2 cars to overtake, not 1, and that puts the pressure on me to nail things ASAP. That said, Sparks is going to be able to attack Medi sooner and easier than I'm going to be able to attack Sparks. 1, he's on soft tyres, and 2, Medi doesn't have a slipstream, whereas Sparks does, and that gives him a degree of protection. So I'm going to have to not overdrive the car. I'm just going to have to stay close and try to capitalise once Sparks and Medi go wheel to wheel, because Medi's going to start defending hard now. There's no way he's going to let out, and straight away we are looking at that opportunity. They're going to be going too wide into this corner here, so I'm just going to hang back, take a wider line, see if I can get up on the inside, didn't really have the momentum, but we are set up nicely to follow them through the chicane of death. Now this is that part of the track where everybody sort of clenches their sphincters, because it's horrendous clobbering the wall when you know there's a really good showdown and it's literally down to the wire and anybody can win it. So we are approaching the final 2 laps now, and this is where it's going to get spicier and spicier. You've got Mehdi running a little bit wide, Sparks getting a better exit. This is going to set him up really nicely heading into turn 1. Meanwhile, I am starting to open up the taps and use a little bit more fuel than I was on the previous laps. Sparks is having a little look up the inside, which is an interesting place to position yourself. Mehdi backs off to try and shake off some of that penalty, and we are through. I decided it's a waste of time to even try and send it up the inside of 2 of them. It's another thing that people do. They decide to send it up the inside of 2 guys battling, and it's a really bad idea, because those 2 guys, they're watching each other. They're not really able to watch the fact that another person is going to slot themselves up the inside, and nearly always someone gets hurt. So I tend not to take that risk. I tend to just wait for a better opportunity. And a perfect example of that will come up. So I just want you to bear in mind, I decided to back off heading into turn 1 and just stay close. We are coming up to the chicane of death once more. Mehdi manages to shave off another 1/10 of a second. I'm really nice and close here, and Sparks' tyres are now starting to drop off. And this is why I was saying, you don't want to let him catch up sooner. Now coming through the chicane of death, and wow, I get my opportunity, because look, I've actually got a better exit than Mehdi. I've got a little bit more power than Mehdi. Now, braking deep into the final corner, Sparks is in the way, which actually prevents Mehdi from trying to hold it around the outside. So there's my opportunity right there. It might not seem it in the moment, but sometimes it really is better to back off. This is where things get really spicy, and this is where Sparks decides to be a bit tricky. What he does is he starts giving each of us an even amount of slipstream, so that we end up coming into turn 1 side by side. That's going to make things really interesting. Here, I have to back off because I can't break deep Sparks up the inside. Mehdi manages to get rid of all of his penalty. I go for a switcheroo, but it just isn't quite enough. So once again, back out of it, slip in behind, and wait for a better opportunity. Already, Sparks is going up the inside. This is absolutely all bets are off. We are going balls out now. We're not going to let off, because every opportunity counts. It's the final lap. We're going to steam into the S. You've got side by side. I'm going to wait back and try and have more momentum out of the S's and up to the heavy braking zone before the sequence with the chicane of death. And just hopefully put myself in a position to gain a position. And here we go, and it's Mehdi who's made that small mistake, braking a bit too deep, and I get the traction, I absolutely send it. Sparks get a little bit wide, which actually blocks Mehdi, and wham, there's my opportunity once again. And I managed to slip through just in the nick of time for the chicane of death. Can I get through? Yeah, we all get through nice and clean. Mehdi brushes the wall, loses the momentum, so it's just me and Sparks to go for the final corner. I decide to do a little bit of a feint. I'm going to send it, but I decide to back off and just make him uncomfortable. Massive oversteer moment from the Ferrari, so I get the momentum. Am I going to do it? I'm coming up to the finish line. It's going to be ultra tight. It's going to be super close, but just not enough. And look at that for a finish. I mean, there's been closer finishes, but that was a quality finish. I want to do a huge shout out to Mehdi and Sparks for what was an awesome race. Who said you couldn't have an amazing race with just 3 drivers? Because that was fantastic. I also want to point out how cool everyone's livery is. Obviously mine is the best, there's no debate there, but I still want to make a mention of it. And that will be all. Guys, I thank you for watching. I hope you really enjoyed that race, and I hope to bring more videos to you soon. Till next time.